flare, the first thing I have to ask myself is what is triggering it? Avoiding that trigger has to be the most important step. But once you're already in that flare, you've already had exposure to the trigger, then management strategies become really, really important. And there is an endless variety of options to do that, all of which we discuss in our community. I still get flares, mast cell flares, but now there are mini flares. So in the past, I would get these flares that would just knock me out for days, where I'd be in bed, kind of felt like I had the flu, extreme fatigue and nausea. But like I said, my flares now are really mini flares. So now when I'm in one of these mini flares, it can be something like a winter's day where I come in from the cold into my warm house and I'll have to pee right away. It's just that urinary urgency that kicks in with the temperature change that triggers the mast cell flare. Or I might get a little flare in my eczema, but typically it will resolve on its own. So the next day it will have cleared up. Another flare that I have now that I didn't recognize before my diagnosis was sleeplessness. And if I wake up during the night, I'm able to identify right away. I know what it feels like in my body for it to be a histamine related sleeplessness. So I have strategies now that I put into place. So it feels really good to not have those huge flares anymore, to know that I've got this control over my symptoms. And there are so many strategies that I now have under my belt to help manage all of that. Each flare I have is different. They're all different from one another. And sometimes it shows up as sleeplessness. Sometimes I have a flare in eczema, maybe itchiness. I might get some nerve tingling, some urinary urgency, pain. It just depends what my mast cells are doing that day and what they're releasing and what the trigger was. But I have so many great strategies now. I think I've got two go-tos. I utilize supplements a lot, so I have figured out what really works for my body, and stress management strategies as well. We outline a whole huge variety of options for both the supplements and the stress management strategies in our online community. So there's lots of great things to play around with and experiment with and figure out what works for your own body.